What's the most American thing ever that if explained to a non-American might just sound crazy? When I was in Tennessee as an exchange student for a year, I was surprised by the team spirit of each high school. Like how there was a football game every Friday night and almost all of the school was there to cheer them on. That would never happen in my country. As a Brit, what shocked me was learning about just how huge your college sports games are. A university, college football, soccer team game here might draw a crowd of a few hundred. A friend who went to the University of Texas told me their American football stadium seats 100,000. What the actual? I think I will use this thread and ask something to you Americans. Are the movie stereotypes of cheerleaders and football players true? Do all schools have a football team with associated cheerleaders? And are the people who join them usually popular kids? I am only right upstairs in Canada, but I've never even heard of a school that has cheerleaders. Also, what is a homecoming dance? Hospitals buy ad space on billboards. I've never left the country, but we must be the only country that has hospitals advertising like Burger King. Do you guys know what s'mores are? Edit. I get it. You've seen The Sandlot. You're killing me, Smalls. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Apparently. Edit. I'm American, but I recently learned that much of the world finds PB&J to be an odd combination. I remember explaining to an Italian friend that in the US we can vote and own a gun and fight in a war at 18 but can't buy a beer, and he was completely at a loss for words. Advertising prescription drugs to regular people on TV. I'm from the NL and honestly I have many questions for the US. Most burning on though is why are your toilet stall doors so high above the ground? Walmart, you can get a haircut, buy a gun and ammo. With your groceries, it's okay to walk around with a gun, but not a beer. And #X200B. Edit. 40 of the 50 states do not require any license to carry a firearm openly. The best chicken joints in the hood usually have bulletproof glass. Aerosol cheese. The age-old question of, are those firecrackers or gunshots? Play the national anthem at almost every event. Shooting a red sports car into space seemed like a pretty quintessentially American thing to do. #ChickenFriedsteak. The +5 above speed limit. Still weirded out about refills and sizes of drinks specific to soda. The low bar to get a driver's license. Traveling between major cities, the distances are insane, especially just feeling completely alone in the middle of nowhere. Health insurance. Premiums. Deductibles. Co-insurance. Copays. Out-of-pocket maximums. In-network. Etc. It's an insane amount of knowledge that you need to have to make a good decision about your health coverage. And no one teaches you any of this. You have to go and learn it yourself on the internet. I've visited the US a couple of times. I'm a South African Brit. And the TV adverts are like nothing I've ever experienced anywhere else. The crazy political adverts where they do nothing but insult the opposition. The medicine, drug adverts. Good grief. Those lists of side effects. It makes the drug sound more dangerous than whatever it's meant to treat. My fiancé's favorite though was a petrol advert, gas. To you guys I guess. It made it sound as if filling your tank with their brand was the ticket to a better life. That advert had American flags everywhere. Bald eagles. And the best tagline in the world, buy a tank full of freedom. That was a few years ago, and we still joke about going to get a tank full of freedom when we fill up our car. When purchasing an item, the listed price is actually not the amount you'll have to pay at checkout, it will be more. IDK if that's fitting here. But I simply don't get why the grading system is A, B, C, D, F. What happened to E? One of my Canadian friend told me that. Back in 2003. When we, France, refused to take part in the war against Iraq. Some Congress cafeterias and some restaurant in the USA renamed French fries in Freedom Fries. I think it's the most passive-aggressive and American thing you could have done. Plus, fries come from Belgium, not France. The crazy amount of food you guys serve. Like, the French fries you serve as a side and large glass of Pepsi is enough to fill me up. Edit. Grammar. Their 5 de Mayo celebrations. I have never met a Mexican who celebrates this holiday lol. I studied in Chicago for a month at 17. And I was so confused as to why all your bread was sweet. I get migraines if I eat too much sugar, and I basically lived off of chips, mac and cheese, and the salad bar in our accommodation. On the 4th of July I just ate a bowl of carrots dipped in ranch dressing as I didn't eat meat at the time. It still had enough sugar to knock me out. Also, your painkiller bottles are huge. Pills. I haven't finished it yet, and that trip was 2 years ago. Florida. Do you guys in the US get paid holidays? We have weeks of paid holidays, not including the bank holidays. I saw someone saying that in the US they practically work perpetually for their company with no time off. How? Proms and homecoming dances, I don't know if they are one and the same or how many there are. Americans make such a huge deal out of it that pass around awards for whoever is the prettiest, dances the best. The whole thing just seems so bizarre and out of this world to a European that I have to ask if any of you can explain in detail why they are the way that they are lol. We just organize with the teachers some school parties that are usually in big clubs once or twice a year, and they turn a blind eye on alcohol because you guys are also really strict on alcohol until you're 21. Another kinda odd thing is when you guys are allowed to drink you just go all over the news in Mediterranean places for causing trouble. I live in a right to hire state. That basically means that, with a few exceptions, my employer can fire me at any time without reason. With zero notice. It is possible to get a job with a contract. But those are rare unless you have a very high-paying position. This is quite common in the USA from what a lawyer told me. I've read stories on this site of other places that are not like this. I always thought this was normal before. 3K plus. Upvotes. WTF, that's pretty cool. Complimenting strangers. But I like it though. Not an American Brit. But when I watch live streaming Premier League on American channels, all legal of course, I honestly find the advertisements so strange. They're so aggressive? I don't know if that's the right word, but honestly it's a fun experience. The car adverts are the best. Edit. My first gold. Thanks a lot, kind stranger. There is a place a short drive from my house that is a firearms, military merchandise store in the front half of the building, and in the back half, just down a short hallway, is a barbecue restaurant. It's a magical place. I'm still shocked y'all pay for an ambulance ride. Like what the? I was on a night train in Italy from Rome to Venice. I explained beef jerky and he asked me why we would do that to steak. And I was like, blame the cowboys. I honestly couldn't believe people had to worry about calling an ambulance because of the fees. Like, WTF? Imagine being seriously hurt or sick and hesitating to call an ambulance and having to think about how much it will cost. The worrying tendency of the South to deep fry anything and everything. The way American public schools treat children with disabilities is bizarre. I was fortunate enough to be in district that had a separate section for children who couldn't function well in a traditional classroom. However, the expectations were so low as to be laughable. I had a math class with a great teacher, but only me and one other kid attended while everyone else was God knows where. During the last few weeks of that class, all we did was watch movies like LOTR. Nobody ever checked in on us or questioned why this was happening. It's a shame, really. The kids I met were smart and clever but didn't really get the support they needed. Some just had anxiety and couldn't handle test taking. Others, like me, simply needed a smaller classroom size. 30 kids per class was standard at the time. But under 15 for special ed. All were just filed away under an individualized education plan and never looked into again unless there were big problems. I was split between regular and special ed in my final year of high school. The only accommodation I got for my regular ed classes was a little keyboard LCD screen combo to type on instead of handwriting. I aced them all because, surprise, I don't have a learning disability. I had dysgraphia and autism. After a decade plus spent in public schools, no one had figured it out why I did better or worse. All that was done was to shuffle me, and kids like me, around to be someone else's problem. Edit. To provide more context, I am referring to my high school 15 years ago. I had different experiences there compared to elementary and middle school. All of those schools were less than 5 miles from each other and in the same county. As I posted below, this district did not lack money and was attended by students from poor to upper middle class. Greater than. At the time, I was in one of the wealthiest and most populated counties in northern VA. My public high school held over 2,000 students on an average day, and the special ed classes had both a teacher and an assistant. Your local area may differ greatly, but I still implore you to seek out a local PTA meeting and/or talk to any parents in your neighborhood if you want a better understanding of these issues. Someone PLZ explain the imperial system and how TF Fahrenheit works. I would like to not set my house on fire setting my oven to 360 degrees. Edit. I can totally spell and grammar. Mowing the lawn. So, I told my friend in China I had to mow my lawn. She had no idea what it meant. I went on to say, you know, a lawnmower, it cuts the grass. She looked at me like I was crazy. She didn't fully understand until I linked her some videos of folks getting their lawn. Perhaps not the most American thing, but not many PPL there have gardens or yards to maintain, so she had never seen or used a lawnmower in her life. I was thinking I had to mow the lawn as part of my chores just about every week growing up. The first time I went shopping in US I realized, after the cashier explained to me, how taxes are not included in the price tag. To this day I'm not convinced as to why. I don't care if someone said it already. I'll repeat it anyway because it's so important. That gap next to the doors in toilet stalls. I don't want eye contact with strangers when doing my thing. Fried Twinkies. Warehouse-type grocery stores, Costco. Super Saver. My great-uncle from Australia would always take photos, and my Korean non-soul friends thought this was crazy we'd have so much space for a grocery store. You need to use a credit card at a very young age in order to have a proper credit rating. And #X200B. Everywhere in the world a credit card means you're spending money you don't have. Thus you should have a bad credit rating. I saw on a post a while ago that some people in Europe thought the big yellow school buses were our folklore and not real. Only in the shows and movies. Sorry kiddo. Run down. Barely functional yellow ~, death traps ~. Public transportation is the standard round these parts. I'm totally Irish, meaning your great-great-grandfather's uncle once had a pint of Guinness. Okay, so sweet potatoes, marshmallows, equals edible together. Firearms, weapons? It's actually starting to become a very touchy subject here in the States. But when I was younger we could go to school with rifles in a gun rack. In the back window of your pickup truck. Carrying pocket knives everywhere. Even though it sounds bad or strange. A good-sized pocket knife in your pocket can be a helpful tool. As a non-American, here I am waiting for you to tell me those stuff to see if they're actually that crazy. The way you advertise medications everywhere. I go to the doctor and they use their years and years of training to recommend medication for me. In the US you go to the doctor and tell them about this amazing drug you want right now. Like doctors are some kind of glorified medicine vending machines. As a South African, what amazed me was the competitors call each other out in advertisements. I couldn't believe it at first, it seemed so unusual. Fraternities, sororities. Yeah, so we just join brother, sisterhoods when we go off to college with secret rituals and traditions. Adverts for medication. You've got happy people and stuff in the ad and then, it may cause death. French guy who lived in NC for a while here. To me, the weirdest thing was all the advertisement for prescription drugs on TV, radio, and online. It's crazy waking up in the morning and suddenly while you're having your morning coffee and cereals, your TV starts spewing stuff about some random meds like they're Tic Tacs you can just arbitrarily decide you need. The worst is honestly the mandatory side effect warning at the end of every ad. I nearly choked on my egg sandwich the first time that voice came up warning people about horrific stuff that could potentially happen if they took the drug. I have lived in quite a few countries around the world. And the US is the only place where I saw this.